Hello, so today we're going to go through the TFT dev learnings. This is a blog post that kind of goes over the good and the bad and the learnings that come from producing a set of TFT. And I like to go through these because I love to see the opinions and the learnings that the devs themselves have over the game, because I do care about and enjoy playing the game quite a bit. And at the same time, it also kind of works as a nice little bookend closing to set 14, which is now going into its sunsetting, you know, kind of ending shortly, and set 15, which is just around the corner. I think PBE is going to be out next week, so if you're looking for some new fresh stuff, make sure to stay tuned. Also, make sure to like and subscribe. This one's one of the more for fun videos, but normally I'm doing guide content. I did a couple VOD reviews as well to help with some cool games, kind of like to showcase the end of set 14 and stuff like that. But as soon as set 15 comes out, there'll also be lots of guides and intro looks and all of that on that content as well. But either way, let's get straight into it. There is a TLDR if you ever want to see it, so we're going to look at this at the end, but I don't want to be redundant, so we're basically going to read through this together. I'm going to talk about stuff that I see, my opinions, my interpretation, and what I would like to see change, and then see how it coincides with the direction the game is taking. So first of all, hacks. So hacks were basically the main set mechanic. That's like all the stuff that basically added all of the random extra things that kind of popped up here and there. But basically, I didn't really like hacks personally. I think, like, you know, without reading it, obviously it's going to be reacting to and reading it for the first time. But some hacks were really great. I think, like, for example, the pick a golem hack. That felt very, like, you know, you could just take it, do whatever. It was cool. Then there was the, like, some of the other ones. Like, egg I learned to hate. I don't like egg that much. Some of the opener ones were pretty cool. I'm trying to think some off the top of my head. The pick 2 augments, right? 1 gold augment or 2 silver augments. I really liked those ones. I felt like there was a lot of critical thinking involved there, and I felt like it was pretty fun. I think those hacks were great, like stuff like that. The ones that I hated were just the ones that just dropped random shit or like adjusted the carousel to just give you random crap. I hate those. I hated them in set 11 as well. I feel like it just like artificially just gives you stuff, artificially inflates boards in different ways, which we'll talk about after if they mention it here, and see what their interpretation of it. But those ones I think were the least fun, and it just kind of like made the game get out of control in certain spots where it didn't need to be. Me personally, I like set mechanics that are more focused on like decision making, which is why I was talking about those ones that I liked. So like I loved anomalies last set. If you played set 13, for example, here I can like open it up here, like I don't know, tools, tables, right? Like in set 14 or whatever, there was like the anomalies, which were really fun, right? Like where they like gave you special effects if you didn't play set 13, right? This was like a mechanic that I really liked. I talked about it a lot, that I loved it. In set 12 as well, that was like, you know, we're just counting back the most recent set. Set 12, I really liked the mechanic because there were charms. You basically got to decide, or am I investing gold to make myself stronger here? That gives me a better chance of placing top 4, or do I greed my econ because that's the main resource I need in order to cap really high? Those were mechanics that I really liked because there was a lot of interaction, a lot of decision making, a lot of direct consequence to those things. It felt a lot more in control as opposed to random things that happen and then hoping that you were in a spot that you can adjust to it. Going back, it also felt a bit bland because encounters basically followed a similar suit in set 11. I talked about a lot of this before. I'm not shitting on everything. Of course, if you like these type of things, you don't have to agree with me. If you really enjoyed hacks and you didn't enjoy anomalies, that's totally valid and that's absolutely fine. I do not care. I do not give a crap if you like it or not. I'm just saying that's what I found, and I'm hoping that they kind of like the same idea, and if they don't, that's also fine. But let's read it. Hacks for a vehicle various existing systems by adding more variability when at their best strategic decision making. I agree. At their best, it did have really nice strategic decision making. Generally successful, true value of hacks depending on the hack in question. I agree. So there is some difference in the quality of the hacks. I think that's a great thing to say. Things like 1v2 augment hack, to split or not to split. This one I didn't like as much. And once we work, choose a golem, were all great hacks. I agree. That's actually very similar to what I said, which is kind of funny. It makes it seem like I pre-read it, but I didn't, I promise. But anyways, some hacks came short, like gold bribes for augments, loot and gold hacks that just led to inflation without a puzzle or strategic decision. I agree with this fully, right? I think that some hacks were really great and others weren't. We can actually talk about inflation a little bit with boards, right? The reason I don't like it when you like randomly drop certain things, like let's imagine like a win streak versus a lose streak scenario. This is something that's really important. I'll explain this in depth here to try and make this more like guide focused if you want to learn more about the set, and then you can skip ahead if you want to see me go back to the document. But let's say we're talking about like gold inflation, for example. This is something that occurs a lot in Scuttle Puddle. It also occurs a lot in this set because there's lots of different extra little bits of gold you can get from augments that are hacked, from loot orbs that just drop you extra crap. What happens a lot is, like, let's say you have a particularly low roll style of board. Let's say we're both playing level 8 comp. Let's say I try and hit my board. Let's say I'm playing Vanguard Marksman. I low roll. I have all 1-star units on my board. Let's say I'm playing against another player, and let's say they're playing, I don't know, let's just also say like another board that's very similar. Let's say they're contesting and they're playing the same board, right? Which, you know, I'm just trying to use it just as an example, right? But whatever board they're playing. A lot of times, like, if you're playing from a spot and you high roll, let's say this person high rolls and they have all 2-star units, right? If they already high rolled their board and then you give them extra gold, it allows them to cap a lot higher, because basically they start to make interest intervals, and now all of a sudden they can make it to level 9, they can find an early Zac or Garen, and you get absolutely curb stomped. As opposed to, like, if things go particularly wrong, then you might not be able, like, you'll use the gold, you'll try and hit, but the fact of the matter is that even if you hit, this person's gonna get further and further ahead, which doesn't necessarily linearly scale. Like, it's not like if everybody gets 10 gold, they can all use it equally, because a lot of it comes down to if you can afford to greed your interest, because the interest will exponentially increase the amount of gold you have, so a person from a good spot can convert it really heavily. This is like an example of what can happen at a roll down late in a game. The bigger problem a lot of times is when somebody has a really good opener, right? So like when you start the game out, right? Let's say I'm playing like a normal type of board. Let's just say I hit like a Vi, and I hit a Kog'Maw, and I hit a Skarner, right? Like I have a normal style board where, like, I'm just trying to win out, like, you know, a little bit here or there, right? It's not particular, it's like a normal board. Somebody else, let's say they hit a particularly high roll board. Let's say they hit like a Jarvan 2-star on stage 2 with like a Graves. What's normally going to happen is the top board that we look at here, they're going to need to invest a lot more gold, right? They win the round, obviously, because they have this upgraded 3-cost unit. But this upgraded 3-cost unit costs 9 gold. So a lot of times, you're investing gold early, and in order to continue to have a win streak, it requires you to continue investing gold, because you're not going to be able to make your first econ interval. You're not going to be able to win early. You're not going to be able to do these type of things. And what ends up happening is, this person gets really far ahead if you just artificially inject gold into them. If I just give you extra gold, now this person not only has the HP advantage, they also have a board advantage, so they're just going to be curb stomping everybody. And then with the extra gold that you give them, they now can make interest. So the whole benefit of you being a weaker board, these people, that like this person, is going to have a much better time in the game, because they're taking that high roll spot that they already have, and then they can separate themselves even further ahead, because now they're also going to be making gold. A big balancing part of TFT is when you have somebody that's in a high roll spot, because they have to invest the gold. You're not going to win streak unless you upgrade units and you level and you do this type of stuff. It makes it so that lose streaking has the ability to have a comeback. Let's say I have a really bad opener as well, like this is a Kog'Maw board. Let's say I don't have a good opener and I'm like particularly weak, like I don't have a good frontline upgrade, I have nothing going for me, right? The benefit is that I can fix my items, I get carousel pile, there's a comeback mechanic, and because I don't have to invest in my board, I already know it's a lost cause, I can sell units, I can stay low level, and I can build up that econ advantage. But if you have somebody that has an HP advantage, and then they also can make econ intervals and build up their bank to have an interest as well, then it erodes the amount of ability that you have to come back in those type of lobbies. It's why I say, like, me personally, I don't like Scuttle Puddle that much. I don't like these type of situations, because it just makes it so that the high rollers high roll harder. They just get further and further ahead because they're taking their advantage, and they have the resources to then erode the only advantage you can have from a bad spot. Now, it's not always going to translate to that person wins and you lose, but it just makes it a lot more of a difficult game. And I don't like that to be like a staple, which is why, like, you know, these ones I didn't like. And I think that's what this statement kind of refers to, not directly, but partially. Like, it aligns with what I think or what I find in my games. Finding more ways to create choices between A and B, I think that's great. As a set mechanic, we're happy with hacks because they allow us to explore special systems, synergize well with the thematic. Most of our players were happy with them as well. Like I said, I was not, and you might find it really enjoyable. I know that it's really popular because obviously set 11, people liked set 11 a lot. Then set 11's mechanic became like a staple because they made encounters like the open encounter something that occurs in all of the games now, that there's no more voting for a portal. So like that already I had to come to terms with is going to exist in the game. And I'm sure this isn't the last we're going to see of a hack slash encounter like system in TFT. So I understand that, you know, it's commonly enjoyed. I'm just saying, me personally, I would prefer something closer to Anomaly or Charms or those type of set mechanics that I think would be more thrilling for the gameplay that I enjoy, which is just a me thing. But anyways, I wish there were more people that were unhappy is what I would say, because then it would mean that it might not come back. That would make me happier for the future. Cyber City was not without pain points. Hacks were rated consistently positive among several players. Similar to Treasure Dragon. I think Treasure Dragon's good, but that's because there is like an interactable decision making that you can do, deciding to roll or not to roll in order to increase your value there, right? All that said, we wish we honed the mechanic a bit more. I agree, given infinite time. Double down the hacks that were well liked and explore more fun ones that revive past mechanics like black market augments. Now this part I hate. Black market augments I think is one of the worst things I've ever seen, and I hate it so much. Basically with black market augments, it just didn't make sense to me from a conceptual standpoint pretty much ever. Because if you don't know, a lot of the black market augments, these were augments that existed previously in the game that were then deemed to be so broken and unbalanced that they removed them from the game. So I already lived that experience, right? When I played in set 9, there was scoped weapons, there was the other one, what's it called? There was think fast, there was binary airdrop. And I remember playing it and being like, great, this is very unfun because somebody hit one of those augments and I don't like it. And me personally, like, I know you might say, well, what happens when you hit those? I still don't care, right? I'm the type of person that I'll complain even when I go first in a game. I just try not to, because then people get really upset. They're like, how dare you complain when you went first? I hate both of those situations. That's just how I am as a person. It's like, I would rather have like a struggle of a game and barely clutch out a fourth. That's where my heart is racing, right? I don't care about just like high rolling everything and just sitting on my chair and just staring at the computer screen, because I'm not playing the game then. I'm just watching a slot machine give me out 777 and give me a bunch of cash. It's like, I don't really care at that point. And when I played it back then, I didn't like those augments because I was like, this is really stupid and it should be removed from the game. And then they removed it from the game because the devs basically made a patch note. They're like, hey, this augment was really stupid, and removed it from the game. And then they added it back for this set. There were so many games I'm playing, I'm like, what is this? Because the problem is they're also very specific. That's the thing, right? Some of them are generic, but some of them are very specific. So you're looking at specific prismatics. You offer black market augments to a group of like a lobby, right? I look at my black market augment, it's like, oh, blue battery, can't take that. I'm not playing a blue buff holder. Rotate it. Oh, share the spotlight. It's broken on Vex, but I'm not playing Vex, so then I'm just going to get Sejuani ulted if I take this, so it's really risky. Maybe I don't take it here. And then I look at the next one, and it's like, oh, great. It's like one of the ones that I can't use. And I look at somebody else's board, and it's like they have like wise spending, which is fine. It's not even that broken. Somebody has like high cost or high shops, whatever, and they're just like instantly going to be able to roll for like a level 9 comp on level 8. I look at somebody else, they have scoped weapons. And it's just like, I hate it because like they're not all made equal. It's not like everybody can take the same, like only like think fast and binary airdrop are like always like you can just always click them. I know they removed think fast, but like, you know what I mean? So I just hate that. I hate that aspect of gameplay, and I think that's fine if you enjoy it, like I said. But me personally, I was like, I've already seen this, right? There's like other broken augments they didn't bring back. Why don't they just bring back the one where you can buy, sell units for 0 gold? Do you guys remember that in set 11? I want somebody to raise their hand in the comment section. Remember in set 11 when they made that augment that was so broken that for one patch, everybody had a 3-star forecast, and literally, like when you would go on your carousel, you know how the carousels have units? Have you ever seen an empty carousel? Like you go on the carousel and there's not units or items there? Have you ever seen that? Because I have, and it happened like a little bit a year ago. Because in set 11, there was an augment that was so broken that people bought every single copy of all the forecasts in the game. So when the stage 5 carousel came around, there weren't any units to put on the carousel. That's how degenerate that augment was. Why don't we bring that back as well? It's like, no, it's like when you look at these things and you balance the game, it's like a dev cycle. It feels almost like we forgot what they were. It's like, it just feels very backwards to me. Now, binary airdrop, they did balance it a bit, I guess, but like, do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, to me, it was just something that I looked at, and I'm playing the game and I'm just annoyed. I'm like, this shouldn't be here. It's like we already all came to the consensus that this was bad for ranked TFT, but we decided that well, if we make it like kind of like less common, maybe it will be digestible and cool. It's like, no, you're just ruining like a lesser sample size of my games, it felt like. But anyways, I digress. If you like them a lot, sure. I just wish there was like a separate game mode for it. Why don't we make a separate game mode with every single patched out system in the game? Like, imagine if like you're playing Valorant or you're playing some other game with a ranked ladder. I don't know, pick a Riot game. I can't think of one because I don't play many of them. But like, or League of Legends or something. Imagine there was one patch where things were really broken, and then we decided that like next year it was like, you know what, all those things that were broken, we'll just bring it back for a couple months. You'd look at it, you'd be like, it doesn't make, it just didn't make, I didn't like it. But that's fine. If you love it, go for it. But I wish it was just in a separate game mode. But then they never put stuff like this in a separate game mode because nobody plays the separate game modes. Everybody just cares about playing on ranked, even if they're for fun. So it's just like, you know, whatever. It is what it is. Loot distribution. This one I have a lot of things. This, I think, was the combined with some of the aspects I talked about before. Now, obviously, a lot of the stuff that I disagree with before was more of opinion, right? If you like black market augments, this might be the greatest set you've ever played. That's totally valid, and that's totally fine. This part was objectively, to me, ridiculous. 14.5 was when they did a system to the loot change. So basically, like, because of the hacked encounters, they basically inflated the amount of resources you had, obviously, right? Because of that, they tried to compensate by reducing the amount of loot that you got. So there was a patch. I'm pretty sure it was 14.5. It was either 14.4 or 14.5, but I'm like 90% sure it's 14.5. They just decided to like reduce the amount of items that you got, and it was the worst patch I think I've ever played of TFT ever. It was so undeniable. Like, it wasn't like broken because like a comp was broken. It wasn't broken because like something was like unbalanced. It was broken because you fundamentally couldn't make items properly. It single-handedly made it so that I couldn't make an item guide on this YouTube channel because I knew that they had to change it. I was like, there's no way I can give advice for this. So that's why there wasn't an item guide this set, because when that happened, I was like, I can't make the guide. It's like what am I going to tell beginner players? Like, hey, the items are really messed up. You basically have to go full damage because you have no resources to make anything else, or you have to take an item augment as soon as you see one and cross your fingers that you don't get extra items, because then you'll just be behind on augment value. It was so difficult. So I was like, bro, what do I do here? Like, I don't even know what to say. So I just didn't do it. But anyways, I hope that they like talk about it a little bit. They probably will. And now they fixed it, right? They balanced it a little bit better. So I'm hoping that like it's good for like the future sets. And I'm hoping that's like the takeaway, not that like that was an okay thing to do. That's like my main takeaway that I want to see here. Cyber City, we experimented heavily with loot distribution, testing different minimums and maximums. At launch, Cyber City hacks introduced far too many resources, creating loot-heavy games that took 2 full patches to bring under control. I agree and I disagree. I think that that's what happens because of the set mechanic, right? If you make a set mechanic that just drops extra stuff, it's gonna have games where you have a lot of extra stuff, right? So like, that's fine, right? But I don't think it was far too many, right? The thing with the far too many, I think like if you had the high-end variants of drops on loot sub, it felt far too many, but I didn't think it was that crazy. Like, I never had a problem where I was like, I have too many items here, right? I think there was a little bit about that with gold, I found, but not necessarily with that. But we got some of the highs in check. We started to see the opposite problem. Some opening out that don't add extra loot, gold and gala, were leaving lobbies short of resources that certain comps couldn't function. Imagine trying to play Vanguard Marksman, you hit a couple early units, maybe grab a trait-linked augment, and you're all in on the plan. Krugs show up, drop nothing, your suddenly whole game plan falls apart. It's not even Krugs, in my opinion. It's like sometimes you have a low component game by the end of the game, which is even worse, right? And this rings true, not because you misplayed, because the items just didn't show up. And I agree, it felt very bad because there wasn't a correct decision. It wasn't like you misplayed. Like, obviously, I'm sure better players than me could have adapted better to these situations, and obviously they are, because like they're in Challenger and they're the same top 10 players all the time. I understand, right? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, it was miserable, and I'm pretty sure if you ask anybody, they would say it was miserable. Now, I couldn't figure it out. That maybe that's part of the thing. Maybe you figured it out and you made it to Challenger. Go for it, by all means. have fun, right? I think it was still really, really bad. And I agree with this fully, right? Risk you taking, committing to an item heavy comp. And it wasn't even item heavy comps, by the way. Because the problem was, sometimes you would get like, I think there was one, I forget. You only had 5 completed items. So like, let's say I had like a tank. I'll do it with Brand, for example. I had a Brand Nico game where I only had 5 items and I lost the game. Like I went 8th with Brand 2. Like this was when Brand was actually playable, by the way. Like he was strong. So don't look at it and be like, yeah, you're playing Brand. No, I mean like when Brand was like better. Like 14.5 is still okay to play sometimes. But like I had 3 good Brand items. And then because of the random components, I'm just going to put them on a LeBlanc. I didn't get dropped a single tank item. I literally took a chainmail off carousel. And then I only had dropped like a bow and like a sword. Because those were my random item drops. Because that can happen as well. The item drops are random. So I can get screwed over and just have bad components as well. I literally couldn't make a single tank item for my Nico for majority of the game. So I literally just had like this. I think my final items were something like Titan's Crown Guard. Because I found like 1 or 2 things that I think it was Titan Sterix. I think I ended up with. I took a belt off carousel. And this was my board on like stage 4. It was so, and maybe I had like an extra component to spare, like an extra bow or something. I probably had like a shiv on somebody because I had bow tier or something. But it was just so awful. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, I can't even do anything. It's just GG because of no items. And there was a lot of games like that. I played a lot of games on that patch. And it was miserable because like having less components also means that the variance is higher on the items you can make, right? Because if you have less components, like if you have more components, you have time to figure them out and work them out in such a way that you can construct the items. If you get offered like a couple components and you low roll the components, it was like GG. Like you just didn't have the items to itemize the units. So it wasn't even like item heavy comps. It was like normal comps as well could get heavily affected by it. But anyways. Yeah, there's no actual way to predict the item distribution. Yes, I agree. I really didn't like that aspect of the set. This was like when the set really became a chore to me, right? Like this was where I was like, okay, I think I'm quitting now. I think I'm done with it. It was like right here. And I don't think I mentally recovered from that point, as you can probably tell from me bitching about it for even now, even though it was fixed. But like this was where I was like, yeah, I think I'm done with this set and I'm just going to wait for set 15. It was like this exact moment and this exact thought for me. Item distribution provides variance. Well, we can plan for variance. Yes, I agree. Same time, total variance, budget group, augments, open encounter, set mechanics. There's already a lot of unpredictability. In patch 14.6, we made a call to reduce the variance in loot drops, raising the minimum item drop. This was good. They fixed it. 14.6. This is what I was saying. I was really happy once they fixed it in 14.6. I enjoyed 14.6 relatively. 14.7 I'm kind of enjoying now, but just my heart's not in it. I'm just playing a little bit off stream to try and just like get my final grind up for ranks and stuff. But yeah, I agree. It was a really good change. I'm glad they fixed it. Sometimes these things go unnoticed, but I'm glad that they were really snappy, right? It was only one patch or so, right? This was pretty much only for one patch, this issue. So I would like to say, like, as much as I complain and I bitch about it and stuff, very good job on the devs this set. Like, you know, as much as I like to say the things that I like, things I don't like, a lot of people just like are needlessly hatred and angry all the time and mean-spirited towards everything. But like one of the good things they did, they were pretty fast with a lot of the stuff, right? First patch, there was some comps that were really broken. There was like the Zeri bug. They patched the strategist amp really early that was really dominant. Then we had like a little bit of like leeway. A lot of the comps were kind of like here or there. Something's strong, something's weak. They dealt with Nitro. That felt like a bit of an outlier, but then it became a little bit too weak. Zeri, I think, had a lot of struggle throughout most of the set because she was pretty shit after like the initial nerf. Then she became really dominant in the last couple patches. I think that really pissed people off, but for me, I didn't really care because like I'm used to playing around comps like that. I didn't think there was anything absurdly crazy about any of it. It just felt like normal. It felt like a normal TFT patch to me, but maybe that's just because I played too many matches of TFT. And then, you know, into this ending like of the set, I think it's also fine. But really the big one was just that one item patch that was really bad. But like I said, they fixed it next patch, right? They have 2-week patch cycles. I wish they didn't change the game as much as they did because like I'm more of a fan of like longer patches and longer cycles of stuff. But they did great. I think like every patch note that I saw was addressing an issue that existed. Now, if they overcorrected or undercorrected that issue, they were still addressing the issues at play. Like, you know, this comp is not being played, therefore it got buffed. This comp was played too much, it got nerfed. I was never looking at the patch notes of this set and saying to myself, oh, what the fuck is this? That doesn't need to get changed. You know, it wasn't something that I felt like that was pretty on point. Me personally, also. Maybe you disagree, but that's fine. Long term, we think lowering variance and item distribution makes playing competitive, more consistent, also allows us to maintain variance in a more fun and interesting places. I agree. I think that even if you're a beginner player, you might not notice it, but I think this helps you out a lot, because having more consistency, at least with item drops, can help you to commit to lines earlier. It can help you play around your units better. It can help you make decisions earlier, which also helps you in making game plans and having those things. I don't think it's more fun to get screwed over by I don't think anybody looks at it and it's like, I had a really good time that game because I wasn't able to get the items that I needed. You know what I mean? It was like, that's not something that's ever like, it's not like a variance like, you know, I hit like 10 street demon or something like that. It's not like a crazy thing like that where you're disagreeing with it. It's like, I feel like it's fundamental to playing the game. It's just giving you a chance to like actually play, which I think is good. So I agree. I like that. That's a really good thing I like to see out of this. Reprints. I talked about this a lot. There's a lot of, I felt like this set for me was boring based on the units, because a lot of the units were units that I've seen already before. The one example I always give is I see Morgana here already, but I know they're going to talk about Morgana and Zyra that were basically like legitimately exactly the same as they were in the previous set, like literally in set 13. So it felt really weird. I didn't like it, but I don't know why I don't know why they did that. It just felt like, I don't want to say it's like a low effort, but I think that like they're obviously putting a lot of effort into the next set. And I think TFT does this thing where when there's like a really big set coming up, the set is like in between feels like a little bit worse. But I don't want to say that like as a fact, because it's also opinion. Because if you didn't see these units before, obviously it wouldn't matter to you. And I'm sure there's units that have been reprinted that I thought was cool that because I hadn't seen it before. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. But they're talking about it here. In the past, we had success. Take a 4 cost and bring it into 3 cost, and also tuning it down. I agree, but even these I don't find super fun. Cyber City, you didn't do this. We recycled some champions in as low cost reprints. Morgana and Zyra were slight variations of the previous appearance. They're pretty much almost exactly the same. Like, I did the math on it originally. Morgana got buffed, and then now it's a little bit different. But they pretty much, like, even their traits are very similar to what they were. So that one was really like, ugh, I don't like it too much. We also did this with traits. Street Demon was effectively KDA, that I agree. Divinicore was similar to Guild and Heavenly, I agree. Pretty much exactly the same as those ones. On top of that, class traits return shortly after. The class traits are always going to be here, like Bruiser, Vanguard, and Bastion, like some variation of armor, HP, and shielding of some sort, or durability. These make sense. I don't really care about those. Those have to exist. Marksman, I guess, kind of is the same as the previous one, but not really. But that's fine, right? Whatever. We do expect certain class traits to reoccur regularly since they help from accessible tank to carry archetypes. I agree. Effective of units, traits, and classes diminish the set sense of nobility. The other thing is that the set mechanic was also felt a little bit rehashed, because like I said, it was very similar to set 11 in my opinion, like just the general feel and cadence of it. And honestly, I felt like set 11's iteration of random shit just getting added to the game was better. I feel like set 11, even though I didn't enjoy it, I think it was better at just shoving random shit at you, and there was a novelty there in the mechanic. So I think altogether I would add also the set mechanic, but I think they're trying to distinguish it because they already talked about hacks. Why do we take this risk? At risk of pulling back the current too far, decisions made as a logical and strategic basis within Into Arcane. We effectively attract more new players into the strategic game. So our thesis for Cyber City was that returning some of the recent Arcane. Okay, so they did it because of Arcane? We'd soften the transition from one set to another for our new players. Let me know if you're a new player. Did you feel this? That's actually a good point, right? I was saying that Morgana and Zyra were the same as the Arcane set, like set 13. This actually makes sense. I actually appreciate that. Like, they're trying to make it more accessible. I think that's a great way of making it more accessible. We tried it, but it didn't work out as well as we hoped. I agree. I think that Once one person starts complaining about something, everybody starts complaining about something. I try to like compliment sandwich it, right? I give the devs credit where I think there was credit, and then I talk about my stuff and I say with my own personal experience what I found that I liked or didn't like. But I do think that they're trying. This actually makes a good point, so I like that. But still, I think that like maybe if Morgana was like a 2 cost or something, maybe they could have done that stuff to make it like similar but a little bit different. New set is not to just contain entirely new news. We can't say for certain. Rebellion change are important for making feels fun and varied. Going forwards, reprints will remain part of a toolkit. Yes, of course. That's what I'm saying. I understand there's going to be reprints. It just felt really egregious this set to me. But like I said, it might just be because I'm getting to that point where I'm playing enough TFT where I'm noticing these things, right? But if you're a new player, let's say if it helped out, and maybe it did help you out. Maybe you came from playing Arcane and you played a bunch of Morgana reroll, and then when Morgana reroll was here in this set, maybe it helped you out. You were like, oh yeah, this is like the previous set. That's something you can make connections with, right? Prismatic traits. We've been doing the same prismatics for a while now. Requiring players to hit +2 or +3, potential difficult goal in order to unlock massive power spike. The moments that prismatics provide are good for the game, but knowing someone is going to inevitably hit them with Lucky Emblem and Trainer Golem on stage 2 is not great for lobby morale. I agree. What are they doing about that? With KO Coliseum, we're trying something different. The way prismatics activate and change will move away from just collecting. Is KO Coliseum the new set? Is that what is this the information? Or is this a new game mode? I actually don't know. We're trying something different. The way prismatics activate will change and move away from just collecting a bunch of emblems. We'll talk about this more soon. Okay, so I'm guessing it's the new set. This is interesting, and I would like to see what it is. I'm gonna be really happy and excited to try that out. I think that, like, I always say this, I feel like Trainer Golem, you should just make it so that you can't get emblem augments. Like, that's what I think is a good fix. Like, is that crazy to say? Like, the biggest problem is always with Trainer Golems. That's like the Wandering Trainer. That's like the, what's his name? Fucking Garen encounter, right? Like, that's the one where usually this is like a problem, because then you can hit a 10 trait on level 9 and all you need is 1 emblem. It's usually when there's like emblem augments in the game as well. I think that if you just made it so you couldn't get an emblem augment in that game, it might fix that problem, but I don't know if that just like kills the mood for everybody. So I don't know. That's something that they probably have already thought of and decided was a bad decision. I would like to hear them talk about it in one of these dev blogs if they are considering that, because that's like something I hear pretty commonly of, or maybe they already did talk about it and I missed it, but I think that would be a cool thing to fix this problem. But they said that they're working on something for next set, so we're totally happy with that. Patch 14.5 item overhaul. I already made a whole video talking about the new items. I think it was fine. But there were some that I missed, right? I think I liked Old Guard Breaker a little bit better, but I think the new one is pretty good. I think it's still kind of overtuned. Sterix was a bit annoying, and I think it still is, but we'll see. What do we have here? So here we're going to get into long-term thinking, why we did how it landed. These are why we changed it. Yeah, I read that blog already. It's on my channel. Part of game development, live service games, knowing where you figure out when you're going to implement changes with larger change that impacts items. And more coming in KO Coliseum. Okay, that's a little bit scary. We decided to update a few items early without getting too spoilery. A new systems update that we alluded to in our last learnings and article hint requires us to rework most of our items. Okay, that's a little bit concerning to me, but I'm okay for it so long as I think that so long as the items work out to be nice. Like, that's all I care about. If they're reworking most of the items, I think a lot of times when they do these type of changes, it's like too much at once. And things are like either super broken or super unbalanced. So hopefully there's a lot of thought put into it and it's implemented well. So I'm hoping that they implement it well. Because last time they did like a giant item rework. Not this set. This set wasn't even that big. But the last time I remember there being a big item rework was with like the Orn artifacts. And that was like a gong show fiesta. It was like all over the place. And it was like a very rough couple patches to get it to a point where I felt like, yeah, okay, I can play the game. All our items will be changing, and they won't be changing in their core function. They'll have small adjustments to allow them to better fulfill their fantasy. Okay, cool, whatever. Rather than waiting and shipping every item change at once, we rolled out a batch early in 14.5. Our goal was with these that if you didn't read the patch notes or one of the videos, you'd be fine. I think the problem is, were people fine? I actually don't know. Now the change drastically shifted the way the item is used. I agree with this. Besides, like, I think some of them it did change a little bit. Like, there is nuance to this, right? Like, for example, like Striker's Flail doesn't work with bad luck protection, which was like something that people had to like come to terms with, right? Like there's stuff like that. Like there's a lot of nuance with it as well, that sometimes things just didn't work properly. That's the first example off my head, but there's lots of them like that. How this land, core items, staircases are only misaligned a bit too strong. I agree, that's what I was saying. I think the other ones were okay. Artifacts were a bit weak, that I agree, and Flicker Blade was a bit strong. Yeah, that's fine. This is on the point. So, and they fixed it. They fixed it next patch, right? The next patch, they buffed, they nerfed, they fixed, right? So totally fine with that. Gameplay side, we missed when it comes to communication. Many players are happy with the new Rage Blade. Yeah, the new Rage Blade is fine. Oh, I think I know what this is referring to, actually. There's a lot of players, and I don't mean to like call them out, but like they just didn't understand the new Rage Blade and they think it's shit. Like, I even got a bunch of comments in my YouTube comments that were like, new Rage Blade is Giga D tier, it's garbage. And I swear to God, they just saw some fucking TikTok or some Reddit article and they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Because it was like literally like no diff. Like the new Rage Blade, whatever unit used a Rage Blade, the new Rage Blade was pretty much the same on them, except the new Rage Blade was also applicable on some of the other units. Like, I swear there's so many people that are like, Rage Blade, one of the worst items in the game, it's unclickable now, never make it. I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? I'm like, the units that liked Rage Blade before, you still put Rage Blade on. It's the same thing. Like, it stacks up to almost exactly the same way. It just works better on other units, like Senna, for example. Old Rage Blade was like giga garbage on her, but new Rage Blade is a lot better. I think the biggest thing with Rage Blade is just how it continues to stack, even if you're stunned or in a cast. Or maybe it doesn't if you're stunned, but definitely if you're in a cast. Because that makes casting units, which I'm curious to see next set if AP becomes more relevant. Like, for example, like LeBlanc. In some cases, Rage Blade is better than Nashor's Tooth, because even though you want her to chain cast, or even like an Annie, even though you want them to chain cast, while they're casting, Rage Blade still stacks up. So if you have like an impenetrable, really strong front line, you actually get a lot more value off of the Rage Blade in those cases, because while they're casting, it continues to ramp up its attack speed. Which is actually a big thing on units that have large cast times like LeBlanc or Annie, where they're doing like a large thing, like, or scaling with time. So that's the only thing that I think, like, there's some nuance there. So it, but right now there's not a lot of AP units that have like big cast that you want that to be an effect. So we'll see. It's more versatile, I agree. Avoids multiplicative scaling, which was a balance headache, I agree. But I think that before it was like fine anyways. But when a change is good, make adjustment above items just isn't the way to go. Changing a fan favorite is always going to be tough, but in this case, we compounded it by failing to communicate why the change was happening, especially in regions where we couldn't localize the message in time. I don't actually know about this, but if there was a lot of issues because of it, I'm sure that's fine. Whatever. I'm okay with it. I think it was a good change. I think it was fine. I think it might have been a little bit confusing at first, but as soon as you had like one game with it, you kind of noticed instantly. You're like, yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. Like, it doesn't really make a difference here. 5 costs. I think 5 costs were pretty good. Yeah, I think they were pretty good. I kind of liked the 5 costs this set. I felt like they were all pretty flexible. I think Samira sucked because she was only really good in like 1 or 2 comms, and it was like really hard to ever play her. But like the way that 5 costs kind of fell towards the end of the set, I think made a lot of sense. I think Zac remained to be like annoying, and I didn't really like Garen. Like, I think just like the sway that they had wasn't like that great. But at the same time, that's like something that happens all the time with 5 costs. So I think it was just nice to have a 5 cost goal, because it really stretches out the way that you play around comps, right? Having strong 5 costs is really important because it gives you a reason to push levels and to play towards those high caps, which is a big part of decision making in TFT. So I like having strong 5 costs. When 5 costs are egregiously weak, which has happened in the past, then it kind of makes really degenerate metas, because you're not trying to push levels, you don't care about hitting those high cost units, then you just stay low level, a lot of rerolls become stronger, it kind of just like goes, it trickles down until like it just goes into full degeneracy, in my opinion. So I like having strong 5 costs that you can make a decision. Do I roll? Do I level? Do I do this? That's part of the game. It makes it thrilling, it makes it exciting, it makes it stimulating. Pull from past successes and fresh ideas, sure. Renekton's hunger per power anomaly. Yeah, I agree. I didn't find Renekton to be that crazy. He felt really weak for most of the set. I think there was like 1 or 2 patches he was like kind of strong, but I wish he was like a little bit like more of like a demon. But maybe that's asking for too much. Aurora borrowed a little from Thresh and Syndra. I agree. I didn't play these sets though. The sets with these ones, I just watched them, so it didn't really matter to me. I barely even noticed it until I saw somebody else point it out. Urgot was a loot vomiting garbage disposal. I think Urgot's kind of really funny and weird, because Urgot for the longest time, like, Urgot didn't really get changed, and if you play right now, Urgot is like the highest cap like comp that you actually play. So I feel like Urgot throughout the entire set kind of just like skated by, of being like really strong but rarely played because it was so hard to get to a point where you can play around him. And now he's finally having his limelight, and I swear everybody's just gonna remember Urgot as being like broken and being annoying, which is so funny to me because like I don't even think, like, maybe he got a small buff, but I don't even think he got buffed last patch or the patch before. It was just like within the last 2 patches after they nerfed Amp, it was like, well, what other 5 costs can we play? Urgot, and then everybody started playing Urgot. I'm like, ole. And before it was more like a 6 boombot thing that was very particular. So he did exist before. I'm not saying he didn't, but just the popularity of this unit nowadays is mind blowing to me. But it's fine. I think he's kind of okay. I like his kit. Zach, I didn't like Zach. I felt like it was great. I just didn't like the fact that Zach was like such a big win con for so many different comps. Like, it just felt like too strong, but at the same time, I understand why it exists, so it's fine. Garen, I think that was fine. Like, Garen and Zach, they both had this thing where if you hit them early, you win, and if you didn't hit them early, they were kind of useless. But, like, usually I like to have one unit like that, but, like, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's just me. Kabuko is a bit overcooked. I agree. I think Kabuko just, like, he's just not interesting because of where he landed as a unit. It was like, I think they were going for like this whole like, you know, Kabuko does one thing, then he does another thing, then he does this other thing. And then eventually they're just like, you know what, just fuck all that. He's just a stun bot. Put him on your board and he's just gonna stun everybody. Have fun. And then everybody just plays Kabuko now just to play him for stun. Which is like, it just became really boring considering there was already other units that were stun units. And it's like, I don't know. We had a fantasy that he would be a boss that transitioned to phase 2. Oh, that's cool, like a boss. Yeah, like cyber boss. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, I think this is cool, right? He dropped Overload and Overtune. Yeah, that was like the first patch. It was really broken. I didn't play him back then, so I can't even speak to it because I had my computer fried, if you guys remember. None of his parts really shine. We worked him entirely. In hindsight, we should have trimmed back earlier and focused on his power into a more distinct identity. Like, when I was thinking of like Kabuko, like phase 1, phase 2, right? Like, I always thought, like, why don't they make him like sway more into it? Like, the whole thing before, like the first Kabuko iteration, it was like phase 1, he has like a Giga Shield, right? And then this Giga Shield, once it pops and he goes into phase 2, he then gets damaged with auto attacks, right? I wish they just leaned into that more heavily. Like, make him like a Giga Tank that does nothing but takes damage, and then once he takes enough damage, he turns into like a damage dealer or something like that. Like, make it like an actual like phase 1, phase 2. But it just kind of felt like both halves of it were kind of like either really broken or really bad, and then now they just turned him into a stun bot. Like, that's what it feels like. Like, you very rarely care too much about the Kabuko as like anything besides just like doing his big Kabuko stun and just having like a huge health shield. So it just feels like it feels like a little bit uninspired. It just feels very basic, when I think he could have been so much more, especially with like Cyber Boss. Like, even his Cyber Boss bonus before was like small into big stun, so there's like a lot going on. But I understand it, right? That's really hard to do and iterate. So like, they put him into a spot where he is very playable, so we gotta be respectful and, like, you know, they got him to a good point, right, where he's actually good. So I'm down. Samira had the spectacle but not the impact. I think she was cool, right? I always thought Samira was cool, like, when I saw her. But the problem is just like I said before, she just doesn't do anything unless you have the synergy specifically to play for her. And I think that's the part I didn't like. Didn't stand out next to Rex the Casher. And then Viego was broken at one point, and then he felt very lackluster, especially now. He summoned the strongest enemies he could. I thought that was cool. And then he also had plus AoE, and then he also did shredding, so he just was like really crazy. But this would have been cool if he was, I wish he had like more of like a melee aspect to him, but it's fine. But yeah, I think they did good on the 5 cost. I'm down. Remix Rumble. I don't really care about this. Do you guys care? I didn't even play Remix Rumble. I just don't care. Like, I put so many hours into it the first time around. I don't really care about set revivals. If you want to see it, you can read the dev drop yourself. There it is. So let's do the TLDR and just some final takeaways. Overall, like I said, this set wasn't really for me. But I knew that going into it, so I can't complain about that. I just, like, obviously I play a lot more of TFT because of my YouTube channel. So still have to make guides, still have to do that. I can't just, like, say, hey, guys, I'm going to take 4 months off and not do any TFT content because I don't really like the set mechanic and the stuff in the set, and it feels kind of boring to me, right? I still have to make content, which means I have to play just to get, like, good understanding. So it's, like, unique content and stuff. But let's see the TLDR. Hacks were successful. With more time, they would have focused on the hacks. Yeah, I agree. I think some of the hacks were really good, and then some of them I really didn't like that much. Loot distribution, I think that they're in a good place now. I agree. I think it was in a bad spot, then they fixed it. Reprints, they wanted to make it easier for new player onboarding. Sure. I think that's a good idea, but I think that they need to make sure. I think you need to have more. If you're gonna like take reprints that are like so blatantly similar, like even in cost, in trait, in function, then we need some other stuff that's like way crazier, right? And I think that would balance it maybe if you want to go that route, but we'll see. Prismatic traits, they're reworking how prismatics work, so we'll see how it works out there. Totally down. 14.5. Oh, so it was 14.5. Yeah. Oh no, this was the item overall that they're talking about. Yeah, items, I think it was fine. They missed on global communication. I think that's fine. I don't actually know enough about that, but for sure, that's cool. 5 costs were great. I think they were cool. I think they did a good job on 5 costs. I think 5 costs this set were pretty nice. And then Remix Rumble. Yeah. Mixing familiar system with fresh mechanics and strong mechanic energy makes feel both nostalgic and new. Breaking records while offering players more ways to explore and experiment. Sure, if you enjoyed Remix Rumble, maybe I'll play like 1 or 2 games of it, but you know, not much more than that. Anyways, that's going over the dev drops. Final thoughts about the set. Like I said, it wasn't really for me. I think balance was pretty good. It was pretty snappy. I think that there weren't big issues that I had personally. I think that they did a good job. I just think that the premise, like, of it for me wasn't the greatest, and I think just in general. So I'm hoping that the next set, the mechanic is closer in lines, like the overarching way to play is closer to like that of like set 12 or set 13, like some of those ones, because those were some that I really enjoyed while playing TFT, or even set 9, but that's like really far away, obviously. Because like I said, I kind of explained it a little bit throughout this video, but hopefully, like, whether you like it or not, that's fine. Hopefully you had fun at least some points in this set. I know that even though I didn't enjoy it that much, I still had some fun games and here and there, right? I would say like I enjoyed maybe like 25% of my time, which is good enough, right? If I'm spending like a couple hundred hours, it's like, you know, that's a few hours that I had fun, right? But of course, make sure to like and subscribe if you like my content. And like I said, we're gonna be doing still some set 14 stuff up until we start to see set 15 information, and then it's gonna be PB and all of that glory hopefully next week. Have fun, see ya, and bye bye.